practice, you've been really involved in organized psychology, obviously, through APA, and you've been really involved, too, in feminist organized psychology through Division 35, CWP, and so on. So I wondered if you would be able to talk more about some of your experiences as a feminist of color, in terms of how did you get involved in these groups? How receptive were they to you and your perspectives as a feminist of color? Sort of how did you get involved in kind of organized feminist psychology vis-a-vis CWP, Division 35, those kind of organizations?
Sure. Let me start by saying that by being a person of color, being a woman of color, and being a person from a third world country, I am born a political animal. And politics have been so important in my life, not because I have been in politics, but because I see how politics affects, they're so pervasive. So when I came back to the United States, I started to get involved in organizations that promoted the rights of the mental ill people, community organizations. And for me, it was a given. It was something part of what you do as a professional. So that way, I learned about the organizations here in the States because they're very different than other places. So when I came to Washington to work at APA, director of the Office of Ethnic Minority Affairs, also was another immersion in a different kind of politics, APA politics. Okay, and it was like anything else. I learned the language, I learned the rules, I learned everything, and I became very much. I saw that women issues, international issues, ethnic minority issues. This is in the early 80s. Go hand in hand. I just could not. Public interest issues go hand in hand. Gay and lesbian issues go hand in hand. I just could not understand the divisions. Again, because I point out the intersections. To me, they were obvious. But so I became very much involved in those groups. And again, because of being oppressed, it's not that this is a fatalistic construct. I sort of understand that there's going to be opposition and resistance to a change in the status quo. So for me, that's a given. So when I go in, I try to strategize, knowing that whatever I do or say, if it's going to upset the worldview or the way we do things, they're going to reject it. So I have to find a way, I have to translate. That's another concept in my life, translation. I'm one of those translated women in the process of translating all the time. And as a therapist, that's very, very helpful. Anyway, so politics, organizational APA. So strategizing how to do that was very helpful. Finding allies. People who obviously who are not going to be in the same situation you are, because you're always going to be like the Lone Ranger, But finding people whose life experiences, see, I'm very much into biography. I like to know people because their biography tells me so much about it. For instance, when I was doing my PhD at UMass, I found out that this, and I'm not going to mention names, okay, this professor was living close to Toronto, and she was commuting for her personal, and she was married to someone. And I said, oh, this woman has been exposed to Canada, she's American, she must have a broader perspective. So I befriended her, and I was right. And people were saying, the other minorities, how are you, what is the connection here? I don't get it. And said, point of convergence. Use the language that she's familiar with. What happens to you as an American when you go to Canada? What happens to you when you go to Montreal? you don't speak French. So anyway, so that kind of strategy, getting allies, developing a constituency.